And getting coaches is vital, no question, but coaches need players. And getting one in from the SEC that was a very productive player for an outfit that was overmatched each and every time they stepped on the field in conference play, at least. Nate Clifton, big 6'5", 280-pound defensive tackle, not exactly oversized as a defensive tackle, had 30 tackles last year, 7.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, and 18 quarterback hurries from a defensive tackle position. That's an impressive number. And so Clifton is now a USC Trojan.
I think the main thing to say about this is that, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I watched a lot of Vanderbilt football, okay? So I'm not going to say that I have this deep inside read on Clifton, but I'm just going to make a general point that when we had guys coming in through the portal, such as like Anthony Lucas, Jack Sullivan, others, over the previous offseason, we liked their talent. They seemed to offer a lot of potential, but of course, there was the Alex Grinch problem. And so to me, without knowing a whole lot about Nate Clifton, just the fact that you're getting this raw prospect and he's going to be coached by Danton Lynn and Matt Entz, but I mean, especially Danton Lynn, like just having that reality is going to add value for each of these USC defensive transfer prospects. Now, let's be honest, like USC needs some splashes in the portal. I don't think Nate Clifton qualifies as a splash, but just the fact that you're accumulating some defensive depth, and that Danton Lynn is going to be able to get his hands on these and other defensive portal prospects, that should be a sign of encouragement for USC.
I'm not going to get excited either. I think I overdid it last year. I was really excited about, Sullivan coming in from Purdue. I'm like, oh, big guys, they get there. He had, flashed a little bit during the spring game. And I got excited about that. Let's just let these guys get in. I agree. We could talk about later, and we got the sign day coming up. We keep hoping for some big splash. Now we have a long snapper and a rush end, a defensive end from Vanderbilt. We'll see. The quarterback hire is coming up pretty quick. By the way, guys, on that point, make sure if you haven't already, make sure you're down there by Matt, you subscribe, because as soon as we get our quarterback, and we will be getting a quarterback, we will go live that day with the call-in show. I'm sure there's going to be, again, like always, there's going to be people celebrating and some people commiserating. So that's what we're here for. Come join us for the only caller-driven call-in show here on YouTube for USC football.
He had some decent stats, again, for defensive tackle. Typically, they don't rack up the flashy numbers, but I'm curious to see where these numbers came from, what games. He did have a sack against Georgia. He had a sack against Ole Miss. He had a sack against Auburn. He had a half a sack against Florida. So he racked up some numbers, 1.5 tackles for loss against Kentucky. So he racked up the bulk of these sacks and tackles for loss in conference play against some quality opponents. So that's a good sign. Sometimes you'll see, especially with 4 non-conference games from these SEC teams, and as Tim likes to outline from time to time, playing the fair share of cupcakes, like in Alabama A&M, Hawaii, Nevada, Las Vegas was also, although not a cupcake this year for Vandy, that most of his production, in terms of the numbers that you're looking for, the sacks, the tackles for loss, the quarterback hurries, came against the better teams.
I don't think he played. I'm not certain on this, but I think he plays outside. I don't think he plays defensive tackle. I think he's.
Yeah, 280. I would think not. Although they've got him listed as a defensive tackle on the Vanderbilt website.
Interesting. Well, that's one thing. I did think I heard him. I think I heard him say somewhere that he could play anywhere along the line. So, and if you listen to Lynn when he talked about it, he likes his guys to be versatile and be able to play multiple positions, because that allows them not to have to substitute in, which we all know then it slows them down. They can stay out there and they can give different looks with the same personnel. So maybe he's that Swiss Army knife he's talking about.
One thing I would add to this conversation, just on a general level, again, I didn't like do film study of Vanderbilt. I didn't watch the Commodores closely this past season.
Come on, Matt.
But I know that they regressed. They regressed from 2022. The program took a step back this year. And so I think one thing that USC was considering is that whatever Nate Clifton did, he pretty much did it on an island. He did it in terms of by his own force of will, his own skill. It's not as though, another Vanderbilt defensive lineman was soaking up a double team and enabling him to come free. It was definitely not that kind of situation. That Clifton pretty much had to do what he did by himself. I'm sure that was part of the calculus, that you put him next to Bear Alexander, you put him next to some of the other talented guys USC has up front, developed by Sean Nua, and maybe this guy can cook. So I'm sure that was part of the thought process for USC.